Hello, I'm Danielle Pathak. I'm the Associate National Director for Pastoral Health and Formation for Vineyard USA. You are joining us today as we talk about financial health, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. I know that this can be an incredibly kind of awkward conversation. Um, it just can be, we just oftentimes don't have places to be able to talk about things such as just money and finances. The last couple of years, the Vineyard, we've put a significant effort into providing more spaces to talk about money, talk about finances. Again, we know that this can be stressful to be able to talk about, and we know that ministry folks oftentimes don't have a lot of money. And so when we look at the end of the day or at the end of the week, we look at our budgets and we look at all the different things that we need to pay for. It doesn't feel like it actually makes sense, does it? Our families that we grow up in, they teach us a lot about the importance of money, either through super intentional conversations or honestly, just through the neglect of these conversations. In my own story, I didn't learn much about money until I got to university at Ohio State, and I saw those tables that were set up in the middle of campus advertising credit cards. And honestly, they didn't even need to really talk college students into just even applying. They were just basically giving away free pizzas and t-shirts, and college kids were lining up looking for their first credit card. But there was no training that came along with getting that first credit card. I know I got myself in a ton of trouble because I wanted clothes and shoes and all the different things, and it was just so easy to pay with that credit card. Well, my desire in the role that I have is to make these conversations a lot more accessible, because I know that we are all coming into this conversation of financial health and money in all sorts of different situations. Whether you have a family, whether you are launching kids out, whether you are single or in retirement stages, different stages impact the way and the comfort level that we have talking about money. Um, I want to be able to provide a lot of spaces to be able to talk about that. We just came from our national conference where I dedicated one of my workshop spaces for pastoral health to specifically talk about this. And I believe that the more spaces that we can talk about this uncomfortable topic of money or the complexity of money, that the more that we can just provide a lot of different support mechanisms for our leaders and our pastors. So today, in our brief time together, we're going to talk about some bigger themes that we're seeing kind of in the Vineyard, just some bigger themes, honestly, just as we interact about money in general with humans. And then also our specific role as leaders in the church. And again, my goal would not only just to be able to just talk about this, but to be able to point you towards specific spaces of community and also expertise so that you can get the help that you need, as well as pointing you towards different resources to continue on this conversation, trusting that no matter what situation that you're in, that we can find something for you. We can actually find a next step for you. So for today, I have some special guests that I would love to introduce you to. First of all, we will be talking with Brian Dinges. And Brian, go ahead and pop on just really quick and say hi to us. He's going to be our first interview, and he is our program manager for the Financial Wellbeing of Pastors. There we go. Hi, Brian. Oh, you're muted. We'll have to get you unmuted in just a moment.
There we go. How about
There
that?
we go. Hello.
Hey,
Hi, Brian.
it works. Good
Yes.
morning.
Okay,
Hello.
we're going to talk to you in just a moment. Next, I want to introduce to you James and Amberly Rich, and they are coaches in the Financial Wellbeing program, but then they also have their own coaching business, don't you? There you go. Hi, James.
Hi,
Good to
guys.
see you. Hi, Amberly.
Hello.
And then lastly, we've got Jason George, and Jason George is our newest Vineyard USA national team member. There you are. Say hello to us.
Hey there, how's everybody doing?
Oh, very good. We're going to talk to you very last. We're going to save you for till the very end. And you are in the position of the donor development space. And so this is something that's brand new for the Vineyard. And we're going to have him describe a little bit about what he is working on that is going to be really accessible to our Vineyard leaders. So one more thing that I want to mention before we talk to Brian, talk a little bit more about this program that the Vineyard has, is I want to direct everybody towards the pastoral resource page. And this is new. I'm really excited about this. It took a minute to go ahead and gather all the different informations that are coming at you as pastors and leaders in the Vineyard. But I want to go ahead and just show you just very quickly how easy it is to access this page. This is on our Vineyard USA website. We're going to drop the link into the chat and we will provide it afterwards. But look at this. This is everything in one space. This is webcasts and podcasts, recommended books that came from the national conference. We'll continually update these. I even threw my favorite devotional apps that I use every day, as well as partners and ministries. And then if you scroll a little bit further up, you will notice I highlighted a few of my team members, which we will continually be expanding that as we grow and as we hire. And we will be hiring in the next probably month for a couple other positions in pastoral health. So definitely check back on that. And then you'll see these little tabs onto the side that give you a lot more information. You can reach out and find out a little bit more about crisis, about how do we do a sabbatical, that sort of thing. So a wealth of information that we're going to continually update. Just wanted to let you know once again that this is happening. This is on the Vineyard USA website, and we will make that updated and easily accessible for you. So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to start with Brian Dinges and give you an idea of this new program that has been started for, I believe it's for about maybe 7-8 months now. Brian, you'd be able to tell us a little bit more, but why don't we start off before we start talking about the program? Brian, tell us a little bit about who you are, because
Happy to.
yes, because you are my, we always start off by talking about grandkids, don't we? Which is very, very fun.
Yes.
It's the very special part about who you are, but tell us a little bit about who you are, Brian.
Sure. So my wife and I are long-term members of the Evanston Vineyard. We raised 4 really fine humans who are now 30-somethings. One's adopted. I'm happy and they're happy for me to report that none of them live with us, which in today's day and age is an accomplishment. I am Jeepa. That's my grandpa name.
That's your name.
I am Jeepa to 7 highly entertaining grandkids, ages 2 to 13. Number 8 arrives in January. And so my wife and I are really excited for the process to start over again. Pat and I recently received our Medicare cards, so that'll tell you how old we are. We will start Social Security in a few years. Hint, hint, don't get started too early. And I want to thank everybody who's on here today for continuing to pay those Social Security taxes, because Pat and I are much more interested in that than we used to be. Since my first career ended in 2009, I've spent most of my time teaching, training, and coaching people about money. In December, I was hired by Vineyard USA to be the program manager for this Financial Wellbeing of Pastors initiative. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to help pastors address what is a significant need in our movement, and a passion for me personally. So I'm really happy to be here. And I hope that helps tell a little bit about who I am.
It does. It humanizes you, because oftentimes we can look at experts. We can look at experts and we can go, oh my God, you're not human, but you really are. And even though you had a whole first career that really set you up for this kind of second career, it almost feels like you're just getting going. It feels like you have a lot of gold that you've had in your life that is coming out at this point, specifically for the Vineyard. So we're really, really pleased to have you on team. Brian, can you tell us a little bit about the things that you've been finding out, whether it be through the research that we did last year or even the one-on-one conversations that you've had with pastors as you've exposed the program and told people about the program, recruited them in, which we have 20 pastor couples that are currently in right now, and we're going to be recruiting for the future. But tell us a little bit about what you're noticing about Vineyard USA pastors.
Sure. I've learned a ton. That's an ongoing process. So when I started, one of the first places I went is to the compensation study that was done in 2022, early in the year. And pastors may recall filling out a survey and perhaps being interviewed. So when I read that report, two things really jumped out at me, being a numbers person. One is that Vineyard pastors are underpaid compared to a national average. And I'm not talking about an insignificant amount. So specifically, at that time, the median compensation for a Vineyard pastor was about $59,000. The national median is more like $71,000. 17% lower and more than $1,000 a month. And so what pastor family, what pastor household couldn't use an additional $1,000 a month, right, to help meet their needs? At the national conference, Bubba Justice, our Vineyard CFO and missions coordinator, pointed out that the only pastors paid less than Vineyard pastors are Catholic priests and Orthodox priests, and they've both taken vows of poverty.
Yeah.
I thought that was hugely telling.
Well, and when he said that, the room kind of gasped a little bit, didn't it?
Yes.
And why, Brian, why do we think that the average or that median compensation is significantly lower in that comparison with national numbers? Like, what are some of the reasons that we can kind of guess at for the Vineyard?
I think the primary one is related to Vineyard giving, what our congregations contribute. Another measure out of that compensation study told us that the average Vineyard person gives about $1,500 per person per year. And nationally, that average is more like $2,600 per person per year. That's a third less. And so I'm sure that every Vineyard church knows how they could use an additional $1,000 per person per year toward their ministry, right? So a big piece of this, from my perspective, is stewardship and giving. The other thing that I've come to know, to better understand, is since we've started with our pilot cohort, I'll tell you what the average pastor looks like in our 20-person pilot cohort. The pastor is about 47 years old. They have about, try to get your head around this, they have about equal amounts of non-mortgage debt and retirement savings. And coincidentally, both of those numbers are about $50,000. Okay, so equal amounts debt and retirement, which means for some pastors, they have $100,000 of retirement savings and no debt. But it also means that there are some pastors who have $100,000 of debt and no retirement savings. So we've got pastors all over the map, not surprisingly. And the sad part is, and I know this from my years of coaching, is that debt is robbing pastors of their ability to save for retirement and to support their families. So,
which we're going to talk a little bit more about in just a moment, about the way that this program is serving. And then we're going to hear from the Riches about how they have approached debt as well, which is so
Mhm.
important to talk about, right? One more thing that I
Sure.
want you just to highlight, just real quickly before we move on, would be um, the vast amount of bivocational pastors that we have
Mhm.
come across in the Vineyard, and how that is a lot more compared to national numbers as well, right?
Correct. Yes. And we're in the range of 38% of our pastors are bivocational. That's not by definition a bad thing, but we
Mm-hmm.
do know that
Mm-hmm.
some of those pastors are both bivocational only in order to support their families.
Yes.
Because they're not, I mean, 18% of our senior pastors are volunteers. So all of their
Yes.
compensation is coming from outside the church. So
Yes.
that volunteer group plus the bivocational group, that's a lot of people, a lot of our pastors who have outside sources of income. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but is that healthy for the future
Yes.
of our not only pastors but our churches?
Yes.
And so that's what we're beginning to probe. So of those, the pastoral compensation and the giving, those are both church finance issues. And so 40% of our program, our curriculum, if you will, is focused on church finances. So we'll be facilitating conversations between pastors and their boards about stewardship and teaching and training congregations, as well as the elements of pastoral compensation. So salary and housing allowance and health, maybe life insurance, retirement savings, all of those pieces. And the program will also address the personal finances, which is what the third, and the debt and retirement being about the same amounts, right? That's a personal finance issue. And that's the other 60% of the program. So right now, pastors have begun talking about a variety of topics with a mentor, and is also working with a financial coach like the Riches, who we'll hear from in a little bit. And just to give you an idea, the first conversation with mentors was about understanding your money story, going back and remembering that, oh my gosh, my parents fought all the time about money when I was 6 to 8 years old, right? And that you don't shake that. And next month, our groups will be talking about generosity. And, so we're talking about a whole list of topics, the whole gamut. And then the coaches are working on budgets and taking actions to try and help a situation. And one of the resources I found, the president of the Dallas Theological Seminary pointed out, it's been said that we can't effectively lead others where we ourselves have not gone first. And that's why we're focused on personal finances right now, hoping to develop more confidence among pastors who then can turn and pass that on to their congregations.
Yeah, because it's not a matter of looking at a pastor or a leader and just saying, lead better or get your church to be more generous, right? Like it's a matter of looking at your own life and trying to understand not only how comfortable you are with having those conversations, but what do you believe, right? Like how does your own personal life show the things that you're talking about, the things that you're preaching about, the things that you're teaching about? So, and that was the way that this program really was designed, as you said, to focus in probably a little bit more on that personal financial kind of well-being side, but knowing that we carry these roles that again, our personal well-being and how good we're doing or how healthy that we are, it will influence the way that we lead. So I love the way that you just emphasize that. That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all start from somewhere. I mean, it's kind of like, we talk about come as you are, right? To attract people to the Vineyard movement. Come as you are. And we're encouraging pastors to come into this program the same way. Let's be open and honest and try to get over the the hurdle that is talking about money for so many people.
So, Brian, this is a 2-year program that they're
Yes.
committing to, which feels like a long time, right?
Yeah.
But there's a
Yes.
lot in there, right? That you just
Yes.
have to walk through over time. That was the reason that it was such a lengthy commitment, because we're
Right.
trying to set our pastors and our leaders up for success. Can you just briefly address, and then we'll talk at the very end in just a moment about how to apply for this program.
Sure.
But can you just talk real quickly about the matching funds? Because this program is funded by the Lilly Endowment. And part of the way that we design this program would be that there'd be an incentive. So this isn't
Right.
just about, it's primarily, right, about a life getting more healthy, right? A family getting
Right.
more healthy, couples getting
Right.
more healthy. But there's a little financial incentive. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I love
Sure.
this part.
Yes. Oh, I do too. I think it's wonderful.
It's great.
From my perspective, what I most like about it is one half of the grant will go to pastors, 50% of the grant. So we expect to serve 100 pastors over 3 cohorts. So 20 pastors in this current, and then 2 cohorts of 40 pastors each. Each of those pastor households will have access to up to $5,000 of matching funds, either toward debt payment or retirement contributions. So 100 pastors times $5,000 is $500,000 out of the $1 million that Lilly has given us. So I love telling people that. That is a wonderful thing. The truth is, right, that $5,000 is not going to change anybody's life, but it is an incentive to hopefully get you going in the right direction. And I tell people all the time, we are not going anywhere fast. That is not our goal, right? Because we can start out like a New Year's resolution. We can start out a house of fire and then we just fall off and it's done. And that's part of the reason we're doing this over 2 years. I mean, I really hope that at the end of this 2 years, people say, I don't even remember how I used to do this because of the way I'm doing things now. Both
Wouldn't
in
that
my
be nice?
Oh my gosh, both in my household as well as my church or our church. And so
now Brian, have you seen,
go ahead.
Well, have you seen stories so far, even in the short amount of time that we've been with these 25? Have you seen a couple stories of people making progress? Tell us a couple of those.
Yeah. So in preparation for today, in fact, I reached out and said, tell me what's been most significant so far.
Okay.
And so a couple of households responded about spouses' communication. So one says this has created a safe space without the anxiety and angst we previously encountered at nearly every conversation. Wow.
That's huge.
Another one says, we've had a major breakthrough in our communication. We've never truly been doing this as a team. Now we're working together and seeing slow, sustainable progress. I mean, that's wonderful. And we're only 6 months into this.
Yes.
And so I'm really encouraged by that. Another says we've been given language to feel more at ease discussing money matters with our church board. And
that's huge.
We haven't even started talking about church finances yet. And yet this couple is saying we already feel better equipped to do that. And then there are others who more tangibly have said, we've taken the initiative. We've started 403B programs to start making retirement contributions. Another said, we've sold 2 vehicles, freed up monthly cash flow and used proceeds to put $5,000 down on a credit card.
That's huge.
Here's my favorite response. So far. Without this is a quote. Without this cohort, I think the hopelessness and stress over finance would never have lifted. I grew up believing that financial stress was simply part of the load that was expected of me to carry in ministry. Wow.
That's a powerful
Wow.
quote.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that will fuel me personally
Yes.
for
Yeah.
a month. That
Yeah.
is all I need to
Yes.
keep going. So
we need to keep praying over these folks that are
oh my
making such
gosh.
significant changes in their life. And Brian, what's the opportunity to be involved in the next two cohorts
Yeah.
that are starting
So
next year, right? Like they're starting early
yes,
next year and then late next year.
that's right.
So depending on the timing of your life, you might have one that fits a
That's
little
right.
bit better. But tell us very specifically how somebody can apply to be a part of this cohort.
Sure. Yeah. The application is simple.
Okay.
It's an online application. It'll probably take you 10 to 15 minutes to apply. There are a few requirements so that we're getting people that we can most help. And so the idea here is that current senior and solo pastors, as well as those who anticipate being a senior or solo pastor in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Okay.
That's who we're focused on. That's who's eligible to apply. So these are senior leaders in their churches. The church needs to be in good standing with Vineyard USA.
Okay.
And in good standing with Vineyard USA means by giving 3% to Vineyard USA. You also need to be in good standing with your region, which generally means you're participating in region activities like the fall conference, for example. Before a pastor applies, though, we'd really like to have a conversation about what they're signing up for. Okay. Because we had a few people who, as the first cohort was ready to kick off, or just as it did, a few people said, oh my gosh, I can't do this.
Right.
And because of the requirements, the time primarily, and that's fine. And that's fair. And all we want to do is allow pastors to make an informed decision before the next cohort kicks off. So tonight, October the 24th, we're doing an information session on Zoom. You can reach out to me, brian.dinges@vineyardusa.org, and I'll give you the Zoom link for tonight. And we're doing another one of those on November the 21st. We've kind of timed these for the completion of fall conferences. So we're looking for pastors and spouses, because spouses are critically important to this. Spouses are critically important. I know that from all of my coaching. This is a team sport. This is not his thing or her thing. We're looking for pastors and spouses that are willing to commit, lean into this program in order to improve not only their personal, but their church finances. The next cohort starts Saturday, February the 3rd. Okay. And then the third cohort will start in September 2024, probably right after Labor Day.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, these two cohorts will accommodate 40 pastors each. Okay. Whereas this pilot was just 20 pastors.
Okay. So double the amount. At the end of this program, we hope to have touched 100 pastors.
100 pastor families.
Which is huge. So thank you, Brian. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are so appreciative of the work that you are doing. This is so important.
I'm having a great time.
I can tell that. We have a good time together when we check in.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Thank you, Brian. And if you have any questions, if you're listening to this right now, if you have any questions that you want to shoot to Brian, pop them in the chat. We'll have a little space at the very end that we can bring him back and he can address the questions that you might have. And definitely check out the informational session tonight. Reach out to Brian. He'll give you that Zoom link. Okay, I want to move on and I want to talk with James and Amberly Rich, who are some of the coaches in the program. You guys, nice to have you with us today. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from this morning.
Sure. Yeah. My name is James Rich. This is my lovely wife, Amberly Rich. We're the Rich family.
The Rich family.
My grandpa would always introduce himself. The name's Wealthy, spelled R-I-C-H. So we have the name for it. It was all pre-planned. We're all good. We're coming to you from our backyard shed quarters, our company shed quarters. And this is where we do our coaching.
Yes. We live in Meridian, Idaho. We've been married for 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we go to Vineyard, Boise, which is just an incredible community. We love it.
Yeah.
It's been great. We've been going there for 8 years now.
I love it.
Amberly and I met in college. I was in a ministry there doing campus ministry, and then she came in as a student, and we got to know each other. And that's really where we got started with our coaching. We started doing one-on-ones with students on a regular basis, and finances kept coming up over and over and over and over. So we found ourselves being coaches before we even know what we knew what a coach was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we love helping people with their money because it has a ripple effect in every area of their life. And especially with pastors, I'm a PK. And I just know how much it helps a pastor when they can get their finances in order. It's just this ripple effect that impacts themselves, but then the whole church. And so we love that we are coaching half of the pastors in the cohort so far. And we love that we're able to serve them and help them and see them just have huge breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our own financial coaching business as well. So it's fun to help people outside of the ministry as well. Yeah.
Well, and we can definitely link to that at the very end as well, just so people can see a little bit more about what you do. Part of the fun thing about being able to expose this program to the Vineyard is all this hidden expertise and knowledge and wisdom that people are carrying in the Vineyard. And so that's how we met. And so hearing about a little bit more about your story and the way that you're serving people has been personally very moving to me, that there's people that carry that. I'm definitely not gifted that way. And so every time that I look at somebody that's like, I love to talk about money, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're a special human being. This is so fun. You are weirdos. I love it though.
It was in your mind.
I know. And Brian's the same way that, and I know I got his little camera turned off, but I love it. It's the passion. I love it. So let me ask you to tell a very specific story. And this is related to the anxiety of debt, which we know is really powerful, right? The anxiety around debt, like how, you can sometimes just watch it kind of mounting, whether it be just a stupidity or whether it just be like emergencies or, you just got different things that are coming at you that you just don't have enough income coming in, right? And so you can get into quite the snowball of debt, right? So tell us the story that we talked about ahead of time of the way that you interacted with your own personal debt and the way that you called people into like a little bit of a project, like a little bit of like a dare. Yeah.
Well, it really started in a hot tub. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's where all great stories start, right? Is in a hot tub.
Hot tubs.
So Amberly and I, we tend to do this thing where when our kids go to bed, we always try to fit in a date night. And this one night in particular, we got in our hot tub that we got on Craigslist for like $200. And we just sat there and we're like, let's dream up about what we want our future to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And
without money holding us back. And we just started talking about what we'd like to do, like going on mission trips with our kids and being able to spend more time with them and just doing a lot of different things.
Yeah. It got us really excited because we were like, man, that life we just dreamed up, like, let's do that. And so then we kind of shift gears and we're like, okay, so how do we get there? And we started reverse engineering. By this time we were already pruny, but we just kept going with it. And we started talking like, the things that we need to do is we need to have a job that's flexible so that we can take weeks off at a time if we want with our family going on missions trips. We're going to have to be out of debt. We're going to have to make more money. Like all of these things we started talking about. And so one of the big things we thought was, at that time, we just had our house debt left. And so we said, if we're going to do this, let's pay off our house and be completely 100% debt free. And so we started working on it a little bit. And then out of nowhere, so backing up when I was in campus ministry, one of the students I worked with, he had a lot of financial kind of baggage and luggage that he had dealt with. And 10 years out of college. Probably
his
10
dad
years
committed suicide because of it.
because of finances.
Rough.
Wow.
And so he had a lot of stuff that he was going through, and we dealt with a lot of that. I'll walk through that with him. And out of the blue, shortly after we had that hot tub session, I get a call from him and he says, "Hey, James, you remember when you used to help me with my finances?" I was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" He's like, "Could you do that again?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, it's been 10 years since college. I still have student loans and I made good money and I can't get rid of it." And I said, "Well, sweet." I knew he was a very competitive guy from college. And I said, "How about this?"
Yeah, he played in the NFL for a little bit.
Yeah. I said, "How about this? Our mortgage versus your student loans, first one done wins." And he's like, "Dude, I am in. I am in." And so we started working on this thing. At the time, I was building websites. So I was going to build this nice little web page with a scoreboard. And then Amberly and I started talking like, what if we invited other people into this?
Mm-hmm.
And so we just, that night, we put together a post. We said, let's come up with a name. Let's call it the Debt Dump Challenge. We had a little poop emoji, and we invited people to come take a dump with us. Yes, potty humor. And
You just went there. You went all for the theme.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. This is very funny.
And we had over 60 families join, and people all around the country, people
Wow.
we didn't even know. It's just like connections from one thing to the other. And we did it as a year challenge. And it was, at first, when we wanted to pay off our home, it was easier just to talk about it between the two of us and not actually tell anyone, because then there's I don't know, skin in the game. There's
what if we don't make it?
Yeah. What if we don't actually get it paid off by then? And so we created a challenge for 1 year, and our goal was to have our house paid off in a year. And that seemed like a complete
impossible.
Yeah. Miracle. Like there's no way. And we paid it off before I turned 32. So I was 3 days before I turned 32.
Yeah.
So it was 4 months.
Wow.
Over the course of this challenge, we paid off our house. My buddy paid off his student loans.
Mm-hmm.
We beat him by a month or two. But collectively as a group, we tracked, and we had kind of this little bar graph thing that showed where everybody was. Collectively, we paid off $500,000 in debt over the course of that year.
Mm-hmm. And we had monthly challenges. And so it was just taking it at bite size, but also having that community built around to celebrate our wins, because a lot of times it's just not something we talk about. It's easy to just focus on the negative things we do with money, and having people that we can actually communicate and talk to about money that cheer you on really helps.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. And I can hear that even in the way that you're describing this, the power of community to break through shame, which we know that shame can get so wrapped up into the way that we talk about money, the way that we think about money. Talk a little bit about the way that you address shame as you talk to people about money.
Well, the first thing to understand is guilt and shame are the worst motivators. Mm-hmm. It's not a great method to get somebody excited about something.
Yeah. And I think there's just so much talk about guilt and shame in the financial realm that it makes people feel like they're stupid and they don't know what to do. And what we love to do is when we meet with our anyone that we meet with for coaching, we go through their wins every time we meet, and helping them recognize all the financial wins that they've made since they last met with us. And then we go through and read all of them, and people have tears just streaming down their face when they just see it's so easy to forget about all those things. And so we love just focusing on those wins, and it really is a motivator because it changes your identity. Instead of feeling like you're bad with money, you start feeling like, I actually know how to steward the money that God's provided for me. Yeah. And when you have that realization, you make different decisions when you have encounters of maybe going into debt or needing to buy a car, all of those things, you come from it with a different perspective.
Yeah. As humans, we have a negativity bias. We always look for the most negative thing that happened the last thing that happened. And that's what dictates how our life is going or how our day is going. And so when we jump over that and we say, no, let's not look at the last negative thing. Let's look at the 13, 14, 15 positive things that you've had in your time with us, even just from the last time we met. And that really starts changing the way that people start thinking about their money, and they start recognizing wins more. It's not that the wins aren't there. They are there. They just don't recognize them.
Mhm.
They don't recognize them. So it's part of what you see your job is to be able to even hold up a mirror and reflect back to them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's not as bad as you think, or you're making progress.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do 100% agree with you. I do think that we as humans are prone towards staring at the negative, kind of searching out for the bad things. And it is a powerful motivator. And
Mhm.
it's a great spiritual practice as well to
Yeah.
be able to celebrate well, expose what the Lord has been, what he's
Yeah.
doing in our lives. So thank you so much for sharing that story. I really, really appreciate it. I was really moved the first time that I heard it. And hopefully for the folks that are listening to this webcast, you're just inspired. You're inspired to dream big,
Mhm.
no matter what your situation is. I cannot believe you paid off your house by age 32. That is unbelievable. So, and it definitely set your family up for a whole different type of situation, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the program as well for the Vineyard. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
Okay, what we're going to do now is I want to show just a couple different resources that we are going to, as the Vineyard, be partnering up with organizations that are serving us with their expertise and with their different resources that they have available. Clergy Advantage has been an organization that we've been talking about for years now, but I want to go ahead and just show a brief little video of what they do, and I'll tell you how to get involved with them.
We at Clergy Advantage are very enthusiastic about the Clergy Advantage 403B retirement plan. Not just because it's our plan, but because of what it does for ministers. Yes, it has wonderful features, incredible funds, and money managers with the ability to reduce tax and provide housing allowance to all ministers. But what you won't see in the prospectus are the incredible results ministers experience from working with the highly skilled clergy retirement specialists with the plan. Specialists who know what ministers can do with their amazing benefits and how to do it effectively. Because what good are all the right plan features if you get no help to use or understand your opportunities or the wrong advice? We often hear wonderful stories from our clients who share about the things they're able to do with their benefits through our guidance, like purchase a home, fund education, become independent, or even do ministry without worrying about income. These are the stories that fuel our passion, because it's not really about retirement. It's about helping ministers use their advantages to write stories like these. If you'd like guidance using your amazing clergy advantages in a retirement plan built for ministers' financial independence, call us for a free consultation.
Let me get back on. Okay, so Clergy Advantage, incredible organization that specifically works with ministry leaders, because again, there are complexities to the different tax kind of situations that we're in. They can help you. Definitely reach out to them, especially as you're thinking about retirement or investing. And then also, we are going to be working a lot more intentionally with Thrivent. And many of you might be very aware of Thrivent. They've been around for a little over 100 years, and the conversations that I've been having in more recent time are very exciting because they can offer something a little bit different from Clergy Advantage. That's why I'm showing you both of these different resources. They can go on the very beginning end of kind of helping people work with their budget, kind of assess what their money is. And then they can go all the way to the very end with the resources that they're providing in terms of investment. So we've got a lot of different things that are going on inside of this specific resource. But let me go ahead and just show you a very specific program that they have called Money Canvas. And Money Canvas is completely free for anybody that wants to be a part of it and that wants to access this. It's a virtual coaching program. And yes, it's so easy to be able to hop on and make appointments, but this is the way that it works. Like what you end up doing is booking a session with trained coaches, and they will work you through 3 different free sessions where you can, first of all, like paint the picture. I like this one where you're talking about budgeting, you're talking about savings. Again, just trying to get an idea of like how much money you have even coming in, where it's going. And then session number 2 revolves around how much are you spending, because this can be the thing that we don't oftentimes pay attention to. And then session number 3 is how to actually like limit those expenses so that you start to build a little bit more savings. So it's a completely free program. They do have Spanish speaking coaches as well, which was really important for me as I was researching different programs to be a part of. And again, I love the fact that this is free, so anybody can access this. Now, if you are finding that you need a little bit more help because your situation is a little bit more complicated, or you are looking to, I don't know, consolidate your debt, or to find more creative ways to invest, or to maybe start a retirement account, you can invest in different programs that Thrivent offers, starting with I think it's maybe $600 for a year, all the way to a little bit more, like a little bit more extensive. You're paying a little bit more, but you can access one-on-one financial advisors, people that are trained, people that have, years and years of real specific kind of financial kind of investment and training in their own life. You can access that as well. So I like Thrivent. I really like Clergy Advantage. I will continue as an A&D to find resources that can help, whether it be that you're in a situation of just trying to understand your budget, or whether you are looking at retirement. I'm going to keep trying to find resources to expose our leaders and our pastors to. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be putting that on the Pastoral resource page. And let me just say this. I mean, even though the program that Brian was talking about, it's a cohort model, it's just different. And it's only, the way that we got that program was by limiting the numbers to that, to be able to make that work with the matching funds. I'm trying to find resources as well for the Vineyard as a wide movement that anybody can access. So that is my heart behind that. Again, if you have any questions, send them in the chat. I can answer them the best job that I can today, or we can follow up later with that. Okay, this is where I want to end our webcast. I want to end by talking with Jason George, because Jason George, he has a really, really interesting role that he was hired for in the Vineyard. And I want him specifically to talk about another resource that is being offered to Vineyard leaders and pastors. But first of all, Jason, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from today, and what this role is that you've been hired for, because a lot of people aren't gonna know immediately what a donor development person is. So who are you, Jason George? Tell us a little bit more about you.
I am a man of mystery, from what I hear.
Are you?
No,
Are
I'm
people
kidding.
saying that?
No. But anyway, so I am the new Chief Development Officer, added to the national team this past, July. And so prior to that, I was in ministry for about 14 years. I had the chance to do everything from church planning overseas, humanitarian aid work overseas, to straight up campus ministry on a college campus here in the States, to also being part of planting churches here in the Central Ohio area. So I have a large swath of different ministry experiences. And then due to circumstances in life, I had to figure out, okay, what's next for me in my career. And discovered after a lot of time that fundraising actually was in my wheelhouse. During my 14 years in ministry, 12 of those were fully funded through the support of financial givers and partners I had on a monthly and yearly basis. And so I translated that into trying to figure out how to work in the fundraising world. And so for the last 4.5, 5 years, I've been in educational fundraising and medical fundraising at the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, and then at Kenyon College. And so me as the Chief Development Officer is helping cultivate, Lord willing, a culture that actually doesn't live in such scarcity anymore. Because I think as I've come to know some Vineyard pastors, I think I can classify a lot of Vineyard pastors as grinders. They know how to do the work off whatever's given to them, and they figure out a way to make it happen, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yes.
But I think can also be a detriment, because you get used to living that way. You get used to seeing the world that way, that you forget about the fact that, well, this guy also who calls us into life actually calls us into an abundance of life.
Mm.
And to flip the script a little bit, to think to ourselves, what would happen if I have this mentality of I want to do and be who God wants me to be with all that He's given me, yet actually realize that He's offering way more than I even think all the time. And so that's what's been the fun part for me in this job. Even hearing that little quote that Brian shared, the given was really explained well. It was a given to that pastor that financial stress would just be part of the ministry mindset. And I don't know if that's supposed to be the way it is. We are supposed to live with a sacrificial mindset, but I don't think we're supposed to live with a poverty mindset.
Yes.
And so I think there is that nuance that I hope my work can help people think of life differently around money, because money is just something we steward in light of who God is and the kingdom that He wants to build here in this earth. So yeah, that's where I get, these are the kind of conversations I have. And so I get to work with churches specifically about changing the culture and how to look at money differently. But also I get to help churches discover what it means to actually raise funds from their networks of people that they know and help people expand their eyes of giving and what it means to do it charitably.
Well, and when you think about your role it's called a chief, what are we calling it? Like a chief donor development officer.
Chief development officer, CDO.
Chief donor. I think what's interesting is learning about this world and then looking at what you've stepped into. You have a special gift to be able to see a lot of people that just have money and resource that want to give, right? Like, it's part of trying to access and trying to call people into using gifts of generosity as well, right? And connecting, obviously, the need that we see around us, the needs that we're identifying with people that can help meet that need. So tell us a little bit more about that with the way that you see your specific role and also the way that you're going to be building out a team over the course of the next year or two.
Yep. So my goal is to help people realize that there's actually more out there for us to do when it comes to helping expand the vision of the kingdom, when it comes to how we use our finances and steward it well. And so I want to work with people who have the ability to give generously, but honestly may be scared to give generously to a single church. Because for a high net worth person, I mean, if an average size of a church is 50 to 100 people, if a person who's making 1.5 to 2 million decides to tithe off that, what would $100,000 to $200,000 do if they tithe off gross due to the local church budget? They could really handle it poorly. And I think that actually lends into the mindset of, well, I don't want to tithe fully to this little church, even though I love it, because I don't know what would happen to it if I were called to leave or move away or I lost my job. And so those are the types of people that I want to help them envision them for, hey, what can you do with the kingdom?
Yes.
With the giftings that you have, not just on the local level, but to help even local pastors think differently about what you bring to the table, how you can even coach local pastors, but even on the national level, like what are the things that you want to see move in the kingdom of God? What are the things that you want to see move forward in ways that actually bring blessing and wholeness to broken communities all across the country and, Lord willing, the world?
So, Jason, do you have, before we talk about specifically something that you're working on, do you have a story that you could share with us about, and I know this is off script, but a story that you could share with us?
It's a little bit off script.
I know, Jason, but I mean, something that you saw where you helped the connection between somebody, because I think that this is really important to give picture to help people with an imagination for the way that it can work. What have you seen? And it doesn't have to be a big example of millions of dollars,
Sure.
right? But what would be something where the Lord has used you in your role and your giftings and just had you in the right place so that you could help that connection between the need and then the resource?
Sure. So I actually got a chance to meet with a Central Ohio pastor who's just taken a position here at a local church, small church. They're kind of restarting from a little season of difficulty they've had, and he just asked me honestly. He's like, how do I teach money? And I said, well, that's a really interesting way to put it. How would you do it? And so he tells me, and he's talking everything from the pulpit. And I just simply said, well, would you have that conversation across the table from someone? And he's just like, I don't know if I could. And I said, well, here's the thing. As a culture, I would hope that our discipleship actually changes the way we do things. Like in discipleship, we avoid the conversation of money. Even James and Amberly were talking about the reality of how it's a hard conversation to have initially.
Yes.
But the more we realize that the kingdom is supposed to dictate values for our life and the way we live and the principles by which we live each day, the question is, how do we bring those things under the umbrella of the kingdom? And so we started talking about, and I just brought something very simple. I was like, hopefully we get to the point where discipleship can be a conversation where we say, you know what? My time and my money actually reflect the values of my heart the most. So here's my calendar. Here's my checkbook. Let's actually have a conversation about how it actually reflects kingdom. And to see that pastor have the flip switched so quickly.
Yeah.
Or the switch flipped so quickly. He just looked at me. He's like, I never thought about putting it that way. And I said, yeah, that's the conversation you want to have, because it's not about not talking about money or making money no big deal. It's actually bringing money into the proper space.
Yes.
Where it says it's actually a gift from God. And so therefore, if it's on loan to me for this season, I want to be able to use it the way he wants me to use it.
Yes. Amen.
And so,
thank you.
So that it was a fun little conversation, because I wasn't expecting to have to have a pastoral moment with a pastor. So
Oh, we need it. We need it. Pastors need it so much. We need to be able to ask these questions and to be able to seek kind of that type of wisdom from each other. So I love that. Tell us a little bit in the last few minutes that we have together about Free Will, which is a new resource and organization that we're interacting with that is available to Vineyard pastors and leaders.
So for me, one of the things I want people to be conversant in is actually having hard conversations about end of life. And I know that sounds funny, but like from a pastoral point, I think so many pastors have been or overseen funerals where you've seen it as a beautiful, glorious celebration of someone's life. And then it was really beautiful to watch the family rally around it and do it really well. But the flip side is also true. You've seen the families who didn't have conversations like that going into the funeral. No one knew what was going on after the funeral. And more pastors than not will come away saying, I wish I could have been part of that conversation sooner than later. So what we're offering is this platform called freewill.com. Vineyard USA is paying for the upfront cost for all churches to get their own branded site on freewill.com. So that way their congregants can make wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and even have directive healthcare conversations, so that pastors can actually shepherd their congregation in a really sweet, kind way to having the hard conversations about end of life, so that they can leave the legacy they want. And the nice thing about it, and this is my encouragement, I mean, some of you are thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if this is a conversation that me and my small church can have. Well, I'd encourage any of you pastors who, as you're going through these cohorts, as you're having these financial well-being conversations, and challenge you to think about the legacy you want to leave with your own family and how you want to model it to your congregation. So this opportunity is available to you too. You can use these resources on your own. I would even hope that you would test it out. And, you know, the old adage of you can't give what you don't have in your life with Jesus actually applies to this too. Like if you've never tried it, it's going to be hard to give it away and talk to people about it. So one of the things that I'll share my screen to help this conversation out.
And Jason, this is so important to be able to talk about. This is like one of those awkward conversations that I'm finding that whether it be sitting on the soccer field talking to a family, which happened literally this last weekend, talking about end of life and this disastrous situation that hit a family. This is such an awkward but necessary conversation to have. So I'm really grateful that you're bringing this. So, okay, good. We can see your screen.
Okay, you can see it.
So you're gonna, yes, we can see it.
I'm gonna have to show you the navigator just so I
Okay.
can move slide to slide. So, so this is a great space where people can think about how to give legacy gifts, estate planning tools. They even have different things during the will making process that actually allow you to have those conversations of directive healthcare or power of attorneys for those families who need to figure it out between parents and kids, grandparents and grandkids. These conversations can happen. And so the beautiful thing about free will is it walks you through the how to create your own will, and it allows you to create the beneficiaries you want to have there. And also for your church, for this branded site that we're providing for you for the first couple of years.
Okay.
Vineyard USA is able to allow you to have that space where you'll have a button on the page that says, would you like to give 10% to your local church? And that church would be Vineyard, whatever the city is.
Okay. Okay.
So on a real practical level for your church, this actually can give you chances to have a more sustainable outlook for your financial future. On a personal level, this one, if you would choose to do this yourself, you'd actually get to understand what it'd be like to walk someone through it. So that way it's not this scary, hard topic or conversation to have, but it's simply, hey, this is part of discipleship. We learn how to bring all our life, even the possibility of the end of our life, under the lordship and kingdom of Jesus. And so let's look at it, how to do it the way he wants us to do it. The coolest part about it is you get to make practical what seems so scary and theoretical. And so on top of that, for the average bequest commitment through free will garner churches around $48,000 per gift, as you can see on the slide. And this is the coolest part. Like if you actually look at the statistics, people who include a nonprofit in their wills are 5 times more likely to actually up their annual giving toward that nonprofit.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool stuff. The second part is, oh, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Well, so what I hear you saying is that free will not only help the personal lead or the leader listening be able to understand their own situation, but also give a resource so that that leader can look at their congregation and say, this is really important. I'm doing it. So why don't you do it? So again, kind of leading from their own life. And then also saying there is a way for you to be able to give a little money towards your church or towards this organization, like very intentionally after you pass, right? So it's just giving them more creative ideas on what to do with their money, right?
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense.
And so the next piece is going to be a little different. This will be for all pastors and to use as a resource in their churches. So Free Will also has given Vineyard USA what we call the Smart Giving Suite. And so the Smart Giving Suite, you're able to accept gifts from stocks and securities, from donor advised funds, crypto, QCDs, even gifts of real estate assets through the Vineyard USA website. One of your congregants can come to our website, hit the Find Your Church button, and then they can find your local church and give a gift. For those churches who aren't able to have that kind of platform to receive gifts like that. So we can actually help, as VUSA, help give you a space where you can actually create more sustainable income for the life of your church through creative means. So when I look at these things that we're doing with Vineyard USA, with Free Will, I see that, like I said before, let me stop sharing real quick.
This is really interesting, by the way, because I think that there are a lot of people out there that think this way. This is becoming more and more prevalent, like in our culture. So I'm glad that we're putting this in people's hands to be able to have these types of conversations. So,
yeah. And so one of the
Mhm.
things that I
Mhm.
love about this is it's twofold in my mind. For those pastors who, you're starting to go through the conversations of, my goodness, I'm trying to get out of debt. The idea of maybe having your life and the end of life more aligned with kingdom values is probably coming into clearer view at this point, but it still seems fuzzy and still seems maybe far away.
Mhm.
This is just a great way to be practical and just take some time and think through it. Um, do it with your spouse, do it with, and walk through it together and have the hard conversations.
Mhm.
Hey, babe, what do we think about
Mhm.
doing with this asset?
Mhm.
Should we entrust this to this? Hey, what do you want to happen if something happens to you physically?
Mhm.
Do you want it? Do you believe in a DNR? Do you want us to try and resuscitate you at all
Mhm.
costs?
Mhm.
I mean, those are hard conversations, but the more we enter into those conversations with honesty and just as
Mhm.
Brian said earlier, come as you are mindset that's open
Mhm.
to hearing, you're able to actually see what Jesus is weaving in between the two of you as a couple, oftentimes, if you come with that open handedness. And the nice thing too is as you do it yourself, you grow more confident in the things that you've laid down as like, wow, these are the foundational values that guide us. And now these are going to be the foundational values that actually move us toward approaching these conversations with our congregants
Mhm.
with confidence because I know they can be had.
Yes.
And so hopefully it's a twofold piece where pastors who need to use it for themselves. If you don't have a will in place, please use this resource.
Yes.
For those of you who do have everything in place and you want to figure out how to use it for your church, reach out to me. My email is
Yes.
jason.george@vineyardusa.org. I'll be glad to help you get it signed up for it so we can get you rolling on it.
Fantastic. Thank you. I hope tons of people reach out to you. I hope you are so busy that you don't even know what to do every day. You need to hire lots of people around you to be able to help. I think this is incredible. And we are very grateful for what you are bringing the Vineyard, what you're bringing our team, the expertise, the passion, the gifting. It's inspiring. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for describing it today to people, because this is probably the first time in a public way that we're able to even talk about this. So thank you so much. Well, we're going to wrap up this webinar, and I hope that you are inspired by not only this conversation. Hopefully, we've made it a little exciting for you. It's not so dreadful as many conversations often can be. But again, we're going to try to make this really safe for people to be able to have these types of conversations, whether it be talking about debt, talking about retirement, talking about end of life, talking about income. I mean, like all those sorts of things. We want to provide safe conversations, resources for you to be able to take a next step. So things such as this financial well-being program, reach out to Brian, or Clergy, Advantage, Thrivent, which have very accessible resources, or even Free Will, what Jason is talking about. Reach out to him to find out more. And I'm excited about what we're going to continue to build as a movement. Let me go ahead and just end just with a brief prayer, and you can be on with your day. So, Jesus, thank you so much for this conversation. Lord, I pray for favor on these conversations. I pray for favor on these next steps that our pastors and our leaders are taking to find more personal health in the realm of their finances and their money. I pray for freedom in Jesus' name, for families and for couples, for pastors and leaders to be able to think about their futures. And we pray blessing on all the different people that are bringing their gifts and their talents and their passions to bear for this moment right now. So we thank you for this time together, and we love you, Lord. Amen. Thank you, and we'll talk soon.